You're listening to the Secret Sauce Podcast, unveiling life's hidden recipes for success, happiness, and fulfillment by finding the unique ingredients that shape individuals' extraordinary journeys.
Well, hello, good morning. I'm Jeffrey Davis.
And I'm Len Bush. Good morning.
And we're here with the Secret Sauce Podcast, giving you a little insight into everyday Americans' lives and finding out what makes them be so great.
Yeah, we like to learn about people and what makes them happy and what makes them successful and what their secret sauce is.
Yes, you just said happy. That's we have a school app for my kids' school, and it's called Class Dojo. And it allows us to communicate with the teachers. And that's exactly what I sent a message to his teacher yesterday. I was kind of moved. My wife sent me a picture of my kid, and he was so happy. Like you could see him smiling from ear to ear. And so I sent her a message, and I told her, I don't know what secret sauce you're doing in that classroom. But between talking about God and Spanish and school stuff, my son is extremely happy, and we can tell. And I told her thank you for it.
I'll bet your son is happy and enjoying himself because he's learning things. And there are new things that he's learning every day, and his teacher is making it exciting. And learning is one of the best things that can happen in life.
Yes, as a parent, it's hard to learn that. I know that sounds, but our kids just soak it up. I mean, we have memberships to the zoo and the museum and to the fishy place, and we have all the bouncy place, and it's not like people probably think we're repetitive, but it's not repetitive to my 4-year-old kid. I mean, he's doing new stuff every time. He's learning new stuff. His abilities grow every week, and so his ability to do things that he couldn't do the week before change. And so, they do. They love learning.
And I think people love learning even as adults.
Do you read a lot?
I read all the time.
Books or
I read
articles?
Books. I read articles. I read all kinds of books. I don't read many novels because when I start a novel, I can't put it down. And so I don't have a lot of time for that. But I read lots of nonfiction.
Yeah, that was me reading books. I think I read the Red Storm Rising by Tom Clancy. That was like 900 and something pages, and I think I read it in like 2 days, but I think I stayed up the whole second day reading the book.
When I read The Godfather, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't sleep. I just read it straight through.
The Godfather was a book? Wow. So.
Yeah, before it was a movie. Yeah. I learned to read by reading comic books when I was 3 years old because my mother didn't want me to have comic books. And so my neighbor would bring her comic books over, and we would hide behind Mother's bed, and she taught me to read.
I read the newspaper.
Yeah,
That's what. My dad was a big newspaper reader, and so I would grab the newspaper, and I was always fascinated and never understood why. Well, there was really nothing else in the newspaper to read other than the business section, and I realized that early on in my newspaper reading career. It was the business page I wanted to read. One, it had all the winning stuff in the racetracks, and I could look at numbers, and if I could look at numbers, I could find a pattern. And I swear, if you'll take me to a horse race track that's got dog tracks running, I think I figured out a pattern on who wins dog race tracks. But I read the business page because it predicted the future. It told you what was coming in the future. So many of the other articles in the newspaper was telling you the past or what happened, and I wanted to know what was coming so I could be prepared for it, so I could be greater at what I was than where I was by knowing what was coming. And I read a lot of articles today. I don't read a lot of novels. I don't read a ton of books. Not that I don't want to, but we've talked about it. I wanted my secret sauce that I could share with someone someday to be my secret sauce. And if I was to read books today, it would definitely be motivational, driven, other people's idea books. But I've always been afraid of taking too many other people's ideas to shy away from mine, because I think I've always had a passion for wanting to tell other people they could be great. also.
Right.
Because I knew how hard it was for me to get to where I felt like I was great. And I knew if I could, anybody could.
If you could, anybody could.
Anybody could, you know.
And it's very important to give people that hope, to give people that idea that they can be great, because sometimes people have never heard it.
No, well, there's lots of families and childhoods that don't hear it. I mean, you know, my wife and I have a very small family, but even in our very small family, we see lots of no hope, and lots of people that don't share hope with each other.
You know, it's interesting. I see a lot of 20-somethings. I don't work with under 20 very often. Once in a while, I have someone under 20, but that generation has a really hard time seeing possibilities and seeing hope. They feel very, very frightened of the future. They don't seem to know that they're going to be able to get through it and get to the other side and become successful. So a lot of what I'm doing, even with that age group, is helping them see the possibility of success.
Well, I don't know if I know that age demographic correctly, but I definitely read an article that talked about the 20-somethings are the only generation ever in America that generation that they grew up did not climb the ladder.
Right.
A lot of those moms and dads went down from where their mom and dads were, instead of you always being one little bit greater than your mom and dad and a little bit greater than your mom and dad. That was the first generation in America that was not achieving more than their moms and dads did.
Because that generation was coming of age during the Great Recession. Yeah.
And so they just didn't want it as bad. Well, they went through some really crazy economics. I mean, we started talking about it before we got on air today about the mortgage crisis. I mean, they went through the mortgage crisis. They went through the oil debacle. They went through, you know, a couple of crazy wars for a while. They've been through COVID now.
Right.
I think they've seen a lot of success taken from a lot of people.
Right.
I mean, I can only imagine. You know, I lost a house during the mortgage crisis, and I think my son was too young to know what was happening. But if he was, you know, 10, 11, 12, 15, 18 years old, and you're watching mom and dad lose their house, maybe that's why none of the millennials in that age group want to buy homes today, is because they know what the feeling of not being able to keep it feels like.
Yeah.
I would probably use that as a driving force to buy a house that I could afford and or one that I could pay off.
Right.
But I was told by a wise man a long time ago, maybe it was secret sauces. He said, you just got to do it. You don't wait for everything to be perfect in your life until you do it. I think we were talking about kids.
Right.
And I was trying to explain to him I wanted more money, more time, more house, more car, more, whatever. And he told me, no, sir. Now's the time.
There's never a good time.
Yeah. Do you tell people that about having kids? There's never a good time to have kids?
There's never a good time. There's never a perfect time. Never. Just do what you want to do. There's never going to be a perfect time.
Yeah. I don't know. We've ran into some people recently with our kids' private school that certainly have the appearance of they've done everything just right on time perfectly their entire life. And then there's Jenna and I. We're not quite like that.
But even if you haven't done it on time, you can still do it.
You don't know people's stories. Everybody has a parents. They probably think we're a bunch of rich kids, family, who knows what they think.
Right.
We got to go last night. You tell me whether you were my counselor or my friend or my co-host with me, you've always told me to make sure my kids have the greatest education, but know what's educating them and what they're learning. And so Jen and I have been trying to follow and listen to that and be very involved, where Jen and I are kind of shy. We don't need to go to the parties and talk to everybody, and we probably leave early most times because we don't drink. But we we've been trying to stay involved in things that make us uncomfortable. And even if it, so last night we got to go to my son's curriculum. The teachers, we went to his classroom, and his two teachers talked about what the planned curriculum was for the year, and then what they were planning on doing for the next couple of months, from how they're disciplining to how they're coaching, how they're teaching God, the verses, the inspirational thoughts every day, the picking things up, the point system, the being good. You know, it's just great to see. You know, you hear so much on TV about all the things that the schools can't do, don't want to do, aren't involved, and we got to hear how involved in every aspect of that kid's, my son's day was. And she said, make sure they're here on time because we have a packed day of 8 hours, however many hours they're there. But they want to spend all the time with them. And, you know, it wasn't just pacifying. You know, we you know, I think lots of daycares and maybe even where my son came from, at another school that we thought was great, they were just there to manage the kids.
Which is so different.
And they were teaching my son all day long.
Their brains are such sponges. They just can take everything that you hand them.
Yes.
And I think a lot of schools take that away.
But why? I mean, you should be more involved.
Absolutely.
You know, these school districts saying, my wife and I talked about it last night, which, you know, secret sauce to parenting is being involved. It's got to be, you know, it's got to be one of the greatest parts. If you're just involved in your kids' lives, you can be a part of your kids' lives. But how do these kids have life-changing surgeries without their parents knowing? How is your child becoming someone other than what they were born being? And how do you not know? How do you not know? I mean, I talk to my son 200 times a day. I don't know if he has a booger in his nose. I know it. So how do you not know what they're doing?
Well, you're just not paying attention. You're just not aware of what's going on. First of all, most people are not aware of what's going on at the school.
But that can't just be at school. That's got to be traits and habits and things at home.
It's everywhere. It's what they're watching. Do parents
not pay attention to their kids anymore?
Well,
how do you miss that much?
So if the kids are in their room playing video games and you're not there, or they're in their room on their iPad, you don't know what's going on.
But that's your fault as a parent.
Absolutely, it's your fault as a parent.
It's not that kid's fault that it's playing 8 hours of video games.
Your job is to know what's going on.
And know that 8 hours of video games is not healthy for you, so put the remote down and stop playing the video games.
Right.
And you don't like it? Okay, well, I'm going to go put it in my trunk of my car and you can't have it.
Right.
You know, I didn't grow up with video games, and my kids still don't have. Not that if they asked, we'd probably talk about it. We have swing set in our backyard. We have bikes. We have baseballs. We have cars that they can destroy. We have way more my personal tools in my backyard than I would like. I've got two boys. They want to play with tools, and I want them to be manly, and I want them to be strong, and I want them to know how to fix things. And so we take apart the tire on the plastic car so that they know how to put a nut back on and how to put the tire back on. You know, I learned how to change a tire on my mom and dad's car when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, because he was either going to teach me or he was going to come out and find all 4 tires off my mom's car one day. But that, I mean, I know lots of teenagers and kids that can't do real simple tasks, but it's important to me that my wife and I teach, and we talked about it before the kids were here. You know, we were bound and determined our secret sauce with our kids. We're never going to give them a BS answer. You know, if he asked me about something, we were going to give them the time to give them the answer. We weren't just going to blow it off or make up a lie or give them a story. And when I'm around other parents and I hear them blow off their kids, it I don't get it because it's part of learning, you know.
It is. And giving them those answers and talking to them is different than just going with them to something and being passive.
Yes, just not sitting there on your phone.
Being involved with what's going on with your children is what helps them grow.
Yeah. We go to the bouncy place, we bounce with them. We put our stuff up, we put them in the back pockets, and we chase them around the bouncy place.
Right.
Sometimes not to the benefit of our health, but but we do it. So I was thinking about this, not to change the subject completely, but I wanted to. So I had a lot of athletic talent growing up, and you probably have met lots of ex-athletes over your years. And it's football season. And I think everybody, but maybe you, is probably excited about football season. Are you a football season fan?
Sometimes.
Cowboys?
I love the Cowboys.
Oh, you like the Cowboys? Oh, good. I wanted to know if you knew, because I wasn't it. I didn't have the secret sauce to be a professional athlete. I wasn't going to put in the dedication. I didn't have that same drive. I couldn't remember 16 different outs that I'd made or 16 different great swings or the 16 longest drives I had. I knew I shot well, I played well, I scored under par at a very young age. It just wasn't, I couldn't do it for 12 hours a day. So you've met some athletes, I'm sure. So what is there something special about them that makes that? Is it the same thing in every professional athlete?
I think there has to be an intense drive to win. I think there has to be the need to be challenged and to face a challenge.
Well, that's business.
Yeah.
To me, it's business. I realized I wasn't going to be that person as an athlete, but I could kick your ass in business.
Yeah, I don't know that it's any different than success in business.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's wanting to be challenged and to accept the challenge, and I think the ability to endure pain. I think that's an important part of being successful in sports.
Yeah, it's not easy, and you are going to hurt, you know, and kind of same way in business or in sales, you know. It's not easy, and I guess being told no 1,000 times is your pain, right?
Right, and I also think the ability to see the win. If you can't see the win, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, most great athletes can see themselves winning the Super Bowl, catching the last catch at the end of the baseball game, or sinking that putt, or hitting that home run. They can see it. You know, I could see me on top of that hill shaking that hand on my biggest deal yet. I could see it coming. I knew I was going to be there, just didn't know which hill it was.
Right.
But I've been looking for the hill for a long time.
Yeah.
Are very driven athletes and businessmen hard? Are they hard with relationships? Or are they better relationships because they want to win and they like the success and they like the challenge? Are they the better parents and fathers, or are they the harder parents and fathers?
Not necessarily. I don't think
is there a demographic of people that tend to be better parents and fathers?
There doesn't seem to be a correlation.
No. Great businessman doesn't always mean great parent.
Right.
Do you see both a lot? Is it more common to see both? Yeah.
I think being a good parent and being successful in life doesn't necessarily have a positive correlation.
It was,
which is interesting to think about.
Yeah, I know. Probably spectrum of both. I mean, I think being successful takes a lot of personal time, and personal time takes away from family time, and so I could see some correlations. I mean, doctors don't always get to pick their schedules, even though they're usually successful. But I know lots of doctors that are great parents. You know, They those 3 hours that they do have, they spend those 3 hours with their kiddos, and not just in the same room. I'm talking about spending time with your kids,
really interacting with their kids,
touching, talking, teaching.
It's interesting. I think good parenting involves talking with the children, doing things with the children, not just being present, but really being present with the children.
Oh, yeah. You can get that with my little boys falling asleep. They want mom and dad just to sit on the couch with them. I mean, our couch is 16 feet long or so. And so it's not like we're sitting next to each other. And he doesn't want you next to him because he wants to be able to kick his feet and not kick you and touch you. He just wants to know that you're there, and maybe you can put your hand on his toes or, they're cute. Especially at this age, they still want you to touch them and snuggle with you, and they'll do all those things freely. It's going to be a sad day when I can't do all those things with my little boys.
Right.
Is there a time where that changes?
Yeah, when they're teenagers, that changes.
Yeah.
Like by the time it's time for them to leave, you're like, yes. How fast can we do this?
He asked us if he was going to go to college. He asked Mommy on the way home from school the other day if he was going to go to college. And she was like, well, if you want to, that's where he wants you to go. And then she was telling me the story and was like, want to? What do you mean? No, he's going to college. He doesn't have a choice for you.
Right.
I didn't get that opportunity. So we're going to try all the things I didn't get to do.
Right.
And if you don't like them, that's fine, but you're going to try them. You just want, you want the best for them. And your idea of the best is, and I know today it's easy to tell our 4 and 2-year-old what the best is going to be for them, and they just listen in mind. But I know those days are numbered where they're going to have their own ideas of what's right and best for themselves.
When they're 14, they may not feel that way because you don't know what the colleges are going to look like when they're 14.
Yeah, will people even be attending classes anymore?
Right. I mean, it may be just what's happened with COVID has changed the way we even do classes.
COVID,
I
was hoping you didn't talk about that the whole show.
I've signed up for an all-day workshop that I thought was going to be in person, and it turns out it's going to be online, which is fine. But 3 years ago, it would have been in person.
Yeah, they said COVID's coming back. They're starting to shut down stuff.
Yeah. I heard someone talking the other day about what to do if you thought you were going to get it. And apparently this time it's affecting the nasal passages. And he said to, spray with nose spray and gargle with mouthwash, and to take vitamin D, C, and zinc. And so I told my friend about it about a week ago, and I talked to her this morning, and she said, I think I had COVID because what you described happened, and I did what you said, and it went away. So,
yeah, but that doesn't mean you need to lock us down and put us in masks and tell us to stop going to school.
I don't think we're going to be locked down.
And there's some schools in America already
I'm
closing.
Sure there are, but that doesn't mean we have to do that.
I certainly hope it's not something that they try to do here in Texas this time.
Well, I think we have enough individuality to say.
We've had enough, or we have enough?
We have enough.
I think we've had enough.
Yeah, we've had enough. Yeah, we've had enough people telling us what to do, don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Have you ever, has it always been this way for the last 40 years? I mean, has our government and our people always told us stuff that was not true? It seems new to me.
Well, I don't think to this extent. They've probably told us silly things, but we didn't pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we used our minds a little more than we've done in the last few years. But I think we're waking up.
Yeah, I read an article. Said, stop disrespecting your parents. They grew up without Google. They know more than you do. Because I didn't. My wife had some access to internet. Now I didn't. The only internet that was available to the end of my high school was Prodigy. I don't know if you can remember
I
the
remember
beginning of Prodigy.
Yeah.
But that wasn't worldwide internet like we believe it is today.
So I grew up without internet of any kind. We had encyclopedias,
Yes.
which people probably don't know what those.
Oh no! One of my biggest spankings came from cutting up my mom's encyclopedia. I needed some pictures of castles. Somebody wasn't helping me get to the library to make some copies of pictures of castles, so the night before I had to turn it in, I cut out pictures of castles out of the encyclopedia.
Did you make a good grade on your paper?
I didn't fail. I don't remember. You know, when you do things last minute without help,
Right.
you know, I got by. That was kind of my theme in school. I knew I wasn't going to get help from anybody, so I was trying to get through it at, 10, 11, 12 years old on your own. So,
But that was a very innovative thing for you to do.
well, I thought it was. But
that
Mom
was
didn't feel that way. My
forerunner of-
stepdad certainly didn't feel that way.
That was a forerunner of your success for later in life.
Yeah, just do what you can.
You have to do.
Do what you have to do in the last minute.
Yeah, you should have
Gosh, she
gotten
was so
rewarded
mad.
by your parents for that.
No, I didn't get rewarded of any kind. But it was, I was always the last minute person, and it's so different now. I hated to read, and I hated being prepared for anything growing up, and today it drives me crazy when I'm not prepared or I don't know. It's like you said in the beginning. If I need to be able to see it, whatever it is, whether going out to eat or going to the grocery store, I don't need your list per se. Even though I have ADD, I sometimes have to call back. I need to be able to see it. Show me your list on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
And I can see it, and I can go get you all the groceries. Because I'm going to read it real quick, and I can see an orange in my head. And so when I'm at the grocery store, the orange will disappear once I pick the oranges and put them in the basket. And so it won't be in my
And then next
mental
thing
list.
on the
Yes,
list
yeah.
comes up. Then the lemons come up. And the
Yeah, and
tomatoes.
it's kind of, I can
that's
see
pretty
it in
cool.
order as I go through the grocery store. But you give me your list, I'm going to read the first two things on the list. I'm going to get those things, and I'm going to have to go back to the produce section because you've got lines down here on the bottom. And I wasn't reading that list to put it in my brain. I was reading the list because I had the list so I could refer back to it. So then I'd never put it in my brain. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it doesn't register the same way to me. Like if you give me a list, I'll end up going back and forth through the grocery store 4 or 5 times.
So how do you use that ability that your brain has to organize like that? How do you use that in your business?
Well, I can see the steps that it takes to get things to closing. I can also see the failures of the things that can get to closing. I can also see the things that are missed that we need to get to closing. And so I can see it as an instance of something pops up, like maybe we have a down payment issue. Well, I can start to see the down payment things that we can use to fix the down payment issue or the other avenues we can go down. I can see the things that I need to start getting immediately to start trying to overcome whatever that issue is.
So you can see some of the problems that can come up. You can see some of the things that are missing, just like you can see the things that are there.
Yes, I would tell you that when I do teaching to new employees and stuff, I spend a lot of time talking to them, teaching them how to see past the simple part of the deal. That the ability to make a lot of money in real estate is your ability to actually close deals, not to write them up.
Right.
Lots of people want the glory of writing them up. I wrote up a $5 million deal, but did you close a $5 million deal? I didn't see that on any of your accolades that you closed a $5 million deal, because that $5 million deal has 100 problems, has 100 additional steps that you take. A lot of people in my industry want to just put things on overdrive. So-and-so is supposed to do their job. Well, no, I know in past experiences that they don't do Y, and that they won't be on a timely manner for X. And so if I want to get to and have my clients, people in the deal appreciate me, I get ahead of those things by making the title company get me the document done tomorrow instead of waiting till the day before closing, or, maybe we get out the numbers the week before. There's no reason to wait till the third day before you start sending out numbers. I'd rather there be a problem we have 4 or 5 extra days to work on. So I'm constantly trying to get as much done on a deal as fast as I can so that the objections come up today
rather than
next week. And that gives me a 10 to 20% advantage over the other general real estate agents that are out there as far as it gets to closing deals. And that 20% is the difference in $500 to $1 million in commissions.
There's a book called The Zurich Axioms, and the person who wrote it also wrote The Luck Factor. And in the Luck Factor, he says one of the secrets to success is being a pessimist, finding where it can go wrong. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
And I love life, and I'm an optimist. People that meet me would tell you I'm an optimist. But when it comes
business,
to, I see all of it.
Problems.
Yeah, I want to see because the problems are where the objections are. And you don't close deals unless you solve all the problems. And so, and like about me, and we've talked about that, we don't bottle things up in Jeffrey's life. I want to deal with it now. I want to get over it now.
Right.
And it's the simple. I want to be happy.
Yeah.
And it goes back to business too. If the problems are solved, and I think we're on the path to closing, I'm happy.
Right. But if they're not solved, we better talk about them. We better find out where they are. And it's the same thing if I'm working with couples in a relationship. If we're not talking about the problems, we're going to have an issue later.
Yeah.
We've got to deal with where the problems are so we can go forward. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They just want to avoid it. And that does not bring success.
Yeah, but do they, just in business, I can see it. In lots of my personal life, past marriages, seeing the problem, seeing it's a different experience. And so how do you, if you got to talk about the problems to solve the problems, I would say lots of relationships don't know what
you have
the
to
problems
identify.
are.
What is the problem? What is the problem? Sometimes you don't even know. So, what is the goal? Where are we going? What is the goal for a healthy relationship? So if I know what the goal is, then I know where the problems are. And a lot of people really aren't very goal-oriented with their relationships. They see somebody, they have an attraction, they connect, they get together, but they really haven't had an idea of where are we going? What does this relationship look like? What is the end point of this relationship?
Are there specific endpoints that should be recognized, such as?
Well, it's different for every person. Every relationship is different. What does my relationship with you look like? If we're going to be in a committed relationship, what do we want it to look like? And I think a lot of times people just say, well, I guess I'll know it when I find it. If you're looking for a house or you're looking for a piece of property, you kind of have to know what you're looking for, or you don't know how to find it.
Yeah, you don't know where to start looking.
Do you want a 3-bedroom house or a 10-bedroom house? You better know the difference, or you won't know what to look for. So I think having a good relationship is no different than finding a piece of property.
Yeah, they all take time and detail
and intention.
Yeah, you got to be intentional about buying land.
And
there's
guess
no
what?
more of it.
You might find a house that is absolutely fabulous, but when you have the inspection done, it turns out it has a foundation problem. So you don't buy that house. You might fall in love with the most amazing person on earth, but during
you find out she has a foundation problem.
You might find out she has a foundation problem.
And Acme can't fix that.
It might be a fun dating thing, but it's going to be a disastrous marriage.
Do opposites attract? Oh, do they?
Because we need our opposite. If there was 2 of us, just alike, one of us wouldn't be necessary.
So is that the secret sauce to relationships? Go find someone that's not you?
Find somebody that's not you. Your brain is going to do that for you. It always attracts to somebody who's not like you. And then you have to spend the rest of your life trying to figure out how to live with that person.
She'd do more things like me. She'd think like me.
Right.
I don't know. I think in my relationships, we have some very polar opposite things about us, but we have some very similar things about us. And we definitely have the same, I don't know if I could tell you what the end spot was, which listening to you kind of concerned me, but we both have the same drive for something greater than what we had.
Right.
We both have the same drive for how we want greatness for our kids, and it's not just wanting it. We know that the effort and the time and the sacrifices and things that it's going to take to get there.
You have similar values also.
Yes.
That's a really important piece.
But I think that was, I dated with a purpose. I couldn't date you if you didn't have my values. I wasn't even going to hold your hand if you didn't have the same values that I had. I just wasn't, I wasn't just out there dating to be dating. My dating life was always very different.
Well, I think the dating life has to be intentional. And I think a lot of times it's not.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot. I mean, Facebook shows you there's a lot of single people out there that have been single for years. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'd do if I was single for years. That would be so weird.
Right.
But I don't think you can be happy by yourself. I think you can be happy about it. I think the greatest happiness in life comes from doing it with other people.
It is a wonderful thing when you have a relationship that is a good relationship.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a relationship that's a good relationship, it's pretty horrible.
Yeah. I see some people in some pretty terrible relationships.
Yeah.
Why